Hi guys, it's Lucy, and today I'm going to be doing a recommendations video for books that I recommend for high school and people in high school. So I planned to do this video a while ago, when school first started, so I could be relevant and for back to school season and things like that, but things don't always work out how you plan. So here I am today recommending books that I recommend you read if you're in high school, or if you want to go back to high school. I don't know, people can learn lessons from these books at any age, but specifically I chose these because I read almost all of them but one in high school, and I really feel that they affected me in a way. So the first book I'm going to recommend is Hate List by Jennifer Brown. Hate List is about a girl whose boyfriend actually started a school shooting at her high school, and it's her dealing with it because he used a list that they made together of people that they didn't like, and that's what he used to choose his victims, and everyone found out about it, and obviously she's affected by it, and she was actually shot during the shooting trying to protect someone. She has to deal with all the ramifications of having contributed to that list, the fact that her boyfriend was the school shooter, and everything like that. And I think it's important now because school shootings are still unfortunately very prevalent in America, in United States schools, not just high schools, they happen in colleges and even elementary schools. The next two books I'm going to recommend are both by the same author. I loved this author in high school. I tried to read all of her books in high school. I wasn't completely successful, but I read the majority of her books in high school, and I just think she's a great author. Speak, which is about a girl who is starting her first year of high school, so she's going to be a freshman, or she is a freshman throughout the course of the novel, and she's kind of an outcast. She has no friends. No one speaks to her really, and slowly throughout the year she actually stops speaking. And the reason she is an outcast is because she went to an end of summer party, and then it ended with her calling the cops. So everyone's mad at her for that, and no one knows the reason she did that. They all just assume she's some kind of narc or whatever. I'm just going to tell you guys there's a trigger warning for rape, so I guess you can assume what happens from there. But I think this novel is so important because I personally have not gone through this situation, but a lot of people who read it said it's exactly how they felt in that situation. It's told in kind of a stream of consciousness, you're really seeing the thoughts that are in her head and how she feels about everything. And the second book that I'm going to recommend by Laurie Halse Anderson is Winter Girls. This one is also told in kind of a stream of consciousness, but it's about a different subject. Trigger warning for mental illness, because this is about a girl who suffers from anorexia. She and her friend are kind of in an anorexia competition, and they're competing to be the skinniest, but unfortunately our main character's friend succumbs to anorexia and she passes away, and we're following our main character after this happens and maybe seeing her realize how sick she is. It's just really powerful. It feels like you're really in her mind, even though it's told in prose, it still feels real. You feel like she thinks in prose, even though this doesn't really make sense. I really recommend it. But again, if you don't think you can read about a subject like that, then don't read it. But if you can, then I really do recommend it. On a slightly lighter note, but not exactly really, the next book I'm going to talk about is Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. I've recommended this book before. Probably everyone has recommended this book before. It's a very famous book. It has a movie, which I also recommend. Yeah, it's a really good book. It follows a boy named Charlie. He's starting his first year of high school, and he's kind of a wallflower, as the title suggests. He's very shy. He doesn't really know how to speak to people. This is told in a series of letters, so it's an epistolary novel, which is one of my favorite formats to read books in. Again, I really think it adds to the story, and it's a very powerful book. I don't know you specifically, but I felt like I related to Charlie and the events that he went through, trying to make friends and things like that. Hero by Perry Moore. This book is set in kind of an alternate universe where superheroes are real, and we follow our main character whose father is a disgraced superhero. So his father obviously does not want him to become a superhero, but our main character has a secret, or he has two secrets actually. One, that he has powers and he's been asked to join the League, which is kind of like the Justice League, the big group of superheroes who help save people, and he's been asked to join, which he has to hide from his father, and also the fact that he is gay, which he has to hide from everyone. I actually did a whole review on this book because this is one of the few books on this list. Actually, this is the only book on this list that I did not read in high school. I just recommend it for high school because it's just dealing with identity issues, more than one identity issue. He has to come to terms with the fact that he's gay, and be able to tell his father. And also it's like a really fun book, but it still deals with kind of a serious topic. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. This is about a boy who is a Native American who lives on a reservation, but instead of following what everyone else expects him to do and go to high school on the reservation, he decides to go to a mostly white town high school off the reservation. This is about him dealing with it, being one of the only not white people at his school, dealing with people at the reservation who kind of see him as a traitor for like not staying on the reservation. Also, Sherman Alexie is actually Native American, so this is an Own Voices novel. And this book is fun and important because you get to read from this perspective, especially because I haven't read that many books about Native Americans, especially about a Native American teenager. Impulse by Ellen Hopkins. Ellen Hopkins is another author who I recommend all of her books for like this topic of high schoolers. She does deal with a lot of tough subjects, but they're all important and poignant, and all of her books are really good, all the ones I've read so far. Impulse is about 3 teenagers who end up in a psychiatric hospital because they all tried to commit suicide. And so this book deals with depression. It deals with the 3 teenagers who all come from very different backgrounds, but they all ended up at the same place. I think it's important to see a window into what some people might go through, and obviously this does have a trigger warning for depression and suicide. The Jessica Darling series by Megan McCafferty. Mostly I'm recommending the first 2 books. I read the 3rd one, but that one takes place where she is in college. I haven't actually read the last 2 novels in the series because my library didn't have them, so I stopped reading the series, but hopefully one day I will get back to reading them and actually finish the series. But for now I'm recommending the first 2 books because these 2 take place where Jessica Darling is in high school, and basically they are kind of like her journals where she just details everything that is going on in her life. This is definitely not as heavy of a subject as like the previous novel I've been recommending. It's just kind of her life, and she's funny and sarcastic, and it's just like a nice thing to read about. And you can read about like maybe not someone else's high school experience because this is a work of fiction, but you know, if you're having a bad day at school or something, you can read this and it'll lighten up your day. Okay, we're back to the serious novels. The next one I'm going to recommend is Boy Toy by Barry Lyga. This is about a boy who something happens to him at the end of middle school, and basically everyone in the town finds out, and it takes place at the end of high school where he's still being followed by this event, and he also has to worry about like graduation and all the things that go along with being a senior in high school. So the reason I'm recommending this is because basically trigger warning for child molestation. I don't know how to say anything about this book without a mild spoiler. If this is already on your radar and you already want to read it and you don't want to hear these spoilers, then you can skip ahead. I'll leave a timestamp right here for you to skip to if you don't want to hear what I'm about to say. But if you're on the fence about this book or you've never heard of it, I don't think these spoilers will really affect your reading. So basically this book has a trigger warning for child molestation because the event that happened years ago was that our main character was molested by his middle school teacher, and basically everyone in the town finds out and she gets fired and all this stuff. But now she's coming back, which is bringing all these memories back up to the surface. And I think this is an important book to read because you really do not read about sexual assault or anything like that when it happens to a teenage boy. And I think this shows how it can be glorified if something like that happens to a teenage boy, because I'm sure if you've seen in the news like a young male was sexually assaulted, people would be like, well, he wanted it because, you know, boys always want sex and blah blah blah, and that's not really true. But how it can affect a teenage boy's mind like that, I really think that this is such a good example of it because they internalize that. And so I really do think this is a good book to read. Obviously trigger warning for child molestation and like sexual assault. The last book series I'm going to recommend is again on the more lighthearted side, and that is the Ruby Oliver series by E. Lockhart, the first one being The Boyfriend List. This is about Ruby Oliver, who ends up kind of losing all her friends in the space of like 10 days, and a bunch of stuff happens to her, and she realizes she's developing anxiety. And that's basically why I'm recommending this, because high school is definitely a time for anxiety, but it's about her like dealing with life, all the events that happened with her. None of them are like super serious. It's about like boys and like things like that, but it's a fun book to read. So those are all the books that I recommend for high schoolers, people in high school, people who want to read about high schoolers. etc. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment down below if you have any opinions, and subscribe to my channel if you feel so inclined. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!